Own the Road with Kelly and Bob is brought to you by Mueller Metal Roofs and Buildings. Made in America, made to last. Coming up on this episode.
When I was working in Silicon Valley, I had more fun going out on my lunch hour and picking fruits and vegetables from the side of the roads. I can walk out into almost any neighborhood here and find something to eat.
Hi, we're Kelly
and Bob Phillips, and we're on the perpetual road trip of America's back roads,
where the journey is always the destination.
Hi, and thanks for joining us for this episode of On the Road with Kelly and Bob. I'm Bob Phillips.
And I'm Kelly Phillips. When we say we travel to all 50 states, we take that seriously. So this next story comes from halfway across the Pacific Ocean in the 50th state, Hawaii.
Hawaii, of course, has some of the most prolific and beautiful plant life, in the world. Mm-hmm. So it's no wonder that it also has an abundance of community gardens. We found one that is headed up not by a native Hawaiian, but by a man from New York City.
Welcome to the Hawaii Kai Community Garden. We just celebrated the 50th anniversary of all the community gardens on Oahu. This one hasn't been going for 50 years. This is one of the newer ones, but couldn't tell by looking at it because there's lots of nicely grown trees. Dwarf trees. We're only allowed to grow them up to 5 feet before the city gets mad at us.
Why is that?
I think it's mostly partially a watering issue. Like they don't want you to use, because they give us the water more or less for free for the garden, and they don't want us to overdo it. But it's been really great. We've been here for just a little over a year, and we've really put a lot of energy into it, since both I and my girlfriend are very interested in gardening.
That's Nat Bletter, Dr. Nat Bletter, an ethnobotanist, which means he has a PhD in the scientific study of the relationships between people and plants. Specifically, how different cultures use plants for food, medicine, and, other stuff.
Now, not everyone here calls Dr. Bletter Dr. Bletter. He started life back east, almost as far as you can go in the U.S. from where we are today on the island of Oahu. He grew up
in Harlem, all in Manhattan growing up. I didn't know anything about plants, so it was a bit of a surprise. But if I had listened to my last name, I would have known I was destined to do this, because I don't know if you've heard this, but Bletter means leaves in both German and Yiddish, which are two sides of my heritage. So the only cognate we have for it in English is like blotter paper. So it can mean like leaves of a book or leaves of a tree. So a lot of people call me Dr. Leaves because of that.
Okay, Dr. Bletter, or Doc Leaves. How about if we just keep it on a first name basis? So one thing Nat is known for is taking people on nature walks, where he points out what's edible, what's not, and which ones just might kill you if you don't know the difference.
We didn't even make it outside of Nat's community garden when he blew our minds with information on something a lot of us eat every day.
Let me take you to our main part. So we have one where we do veggies, one plot where we do bananas and papayas, the slightly larger trees that they let us sneak in because they're technically herbs, not trees. So we sneak in on a botanical technicality there. You know?
So I've got to stop you right there.
Okay.
Technically herbs.
Yeah.
A banana?
Yeah.
And a papaya.
Bananas are the largest herb in the world.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I always talk about this on my foraging walks. I can teach you all about my foraging side, about eating the no-effort plants that just grow wild in the forest here.
Things you would just find growing wild.
Yep.
And you know which ones of those you can safely eat.
You probably ate for breakfast the largest herb in the world and you didn't even know it. So So on all my foraging walks, I get people to start recognizing, dividing all the plants into it's kind of like 21 questions. Because there's 14,000 species of plants in Oahu alone that we've recognized. And I only can recognize about 700 of those on site. So even with my 30 years of training in botany, I can only tackle like 20% of that.
Which means I'd be lucky to recognize one, right?
Right, that's why I want to help you like divide it in half and divide it in half and divide it in half until you know you got one species out of those 14,000, and then you can decide whether that's one you can eat. So I ask sort of people 21 questions, and I say, hey, is this a herb? Is this a tree? Is this a vine? Is this an epiphyte? Is this a shrub? And just with those few questions, you can already divide it down to only a few species.
And that brings us to one of the two big reasons Nat has spent his life studying plants. You see, he doesn't think we have to accept things as they naturally are.
That's right. Let's just say Nat likes to experiment.
And I do a lot of grafting that should definitely get into describing, making fruit cocktail or Frankenstein trees if that doesn't scare you. So that one of my gardening clients, my nature edible landscaping clients, asked me to make them a fruit cocktail tree with Valencia orange, local Ka'u orange, Tangelo, and two types of pomelo, pink and yellow pomelo. Have you ever heard of pomelo? Yeah, no. It's the father of the grapefruit. Or I should say it's the mother, because it gave all the sweetness to the grapefruit, and all the bitterness came from the bitter orange. I don't drink coffee, wine, or beer, or most olives, because those are all too bitter for me, so I can't handle grapefruit, even with sugar added. But I love pomelos, because that's only the sweet side of grapefruit with that nice, refreshing taste. They're very popular locally, because they originally came from China and Southeast Asia. A lot of immigrants here from there, and so this client asked me to put both pink and yellow pomelo on this one tree. So eventually, when all the grafts take, it'll have 5 different types of fruit on it at once. I call it the copying and pasting of the plant world.
Now, we told you there were 2 things about botany that initially attracted Nat, with the first being his Frankenstein plants. The other has a more serious side, namely, how people in different cultures think about plant life.
After leaving his home in New York and before he entered the world of botany, Nat Bletter worked in Silicon Valley, helping to develop the world of virtual reality. Think Google Earth here, and that sort of thing. But his heart and soul told him to go east, way east.
I took a sabbatical from Silicon Valley to go travel around Asia for 5 months, and I really loved it. And I loved talking to people about fruits and medicinal plants that they were using in the markets. I didn't spend any time going to the tourist destinations. I instead hung out at markets saying, what's this? How do you use this? What disease do you treat with this? And so I was like, what career can I do where I get to travel and talk to people about plants?
I think you picked the right one. You're pretty passionate about this stuff.
I love it. Yeah, and I think you can see that I'm in a much better latitude than when I was in the concrete jungle of New York.
So was it always wanting to get into the medicinal aspects of plants that drew you in to begin with?
Or the eating part, just the eating part of it.
Both of them. And I think in most of the world, those are not divided realms. Like most of the world thinks of food as medicine. And it's just like Western culture that's kind of split them in two. I always think about like, oh, this is the medicinal benefit of eating this delicious fruit or this vegetable or something like that. But yeah, I thought it could have a bigger impact on improving people's lives with medicinal plants. That's what got me into botany 26 plus years ago.
We spent most of the day with Dr. Bletter and even went to his chocolate processing plant there on the island of Oahu.
Yeah, you hated that, didn't you?
Yeah.
It was a learning experience, to say the least. We found out more about how he came to do what he does, how he has foraged for food most of his life, how he thinks the food choices we make have a lot to do with our health, and how he and some associates want to turn Hawaii into the Napa Valley of chocolate.
And I just have to insert right here, I am all for this idea. We'll pick up the conversation here.
But it's been really great. We've been here for just a little over a year, and we've really put a lot of energy into it. We use a lot of permaculture techniques. I'll show them to you and explain how they let us grow a lot of stuff in Hawaii that you couldn't otherwise. Because the one surprising thing when I moved here from New York City 16 years ago was how quickly things grew, and then even more surprising was how quickly things die.
Really?
So everyone's like, oh, you're moving to Hawaii, you'll be able to grow everything like tomatoes and bell peppers, and I tried those and they definitely grow, and they definitely get killed within a couple of months.
Why?
Because we don't have a winter to kill off the pests here. When I was working in Silicon Valley as a computer programmer doing virtual reality research, but I had more fun going out on my lunch hour and picking fruits and vegetables from the side of the roads. So yeah, foraging is a big part of what I do. And the nice thing about foraging is that you don't have to put any effort. I can walk out into almost any neighborhood here and find something to eat.
How does one happen to just get into foraging? Were you
From
hungry?
Silicon Valley, too.
Yeah, you're starving to death. What?
No, I definitely wasn't starving. I had a pretty good job there. I was just fascinated with, well, I don't know if you've heard that Silicon Valley used to be all stone fruit orchards,
Yes.
like apricots
Yes,
and
yeah.
plums and cherries. And there's remnants of that in a lot of people's yards, even today, even though I left there 26 years ago. So I'd bike around Silicon Valley, Palo Alto, Redwood City, Menlo Park, where I worked, see people with like fig trees, and I'd knock on their door and say, I see that your fig tree is dropping all this fruit on the ground. Would you mind if I pick some up? And they usually say, yeah, I don't know what the hell that tree is. So then my girlfriend at the time got me a book on foraging, so I got more into the herbs and stuff. And then I just started taking my friends on foraging walks. And then when I went back to grad school to get my PhD in New York, I worked my whole way through grad school doing foraging tours of Central Park, if you can believe it. And even in New York City, I could get like 50% of my food in the summer from the parks there. So that helps you a lot if you know what an herb is and what is not. So if I told you this grass here was an herb, this chili plant was an herb, this chives was an herb, this weedy thing here was an herb, the papayas and the banana herbs. What do you think of as an herb?
Well, I mean,
Rosemary.
yeah, thyme,
All the stuff you use in the kitchen.
Yes,
and all that,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the civilian English definition of herbs. So, but if I told you these other things like banana, which you can eat, but you're not eating the leaves of it, do you see any commonality between all those things I just pointed
Is
out?
it the leaves?
No, not quite.
No?
But you're in the vicinity.
Stalk?
Yes, you're getting
It's
close
the
to
stalk.
the heart of the matter.
It's not brown. It's
Ding, 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 ding. You got it. It's anything that doesn't have a bark or chunk is still considered an herb. But a lot of plants you might associate with Hawaii, like bananas, coconuts, taro, breadfruit, are in a separate category called canoe plants, because they were brought on canoes by early Polynesian voyagers from western parts of the Pacific.
So in what you do, have you been to all of the main islands of
All the ones
Hawaii?
I can go to, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
There's some that you have to get special permission for.
And you've never just slipped on under the cover of darkness.
well, he's not going to say.
Come on, we won't tell a soul.
Well, one of them, you have to have Hawaiian blood for ni'ihau, which I definitely do not have any of. And the other ones, you need like military clearance, and they're former bombing ranges, so I don't want to sneak over there.
Probably
There's
not.
probably still unexploded ordnance.
I think I see something I recognize from home.
Yeah,
Don't tell me this is not a cactus.
you got it.
It is a
cactus.
cactus.
Yeah, you got it.
Look at me, the botanist.
There you go. You weren't tricked. There are some ones that like brain cactuses and pencil cactuses. Have you ever seen those? Those
Yes.
are not cacti.
Yeah.
They just fill the same ecological niche as cacti. So all cacti are native to the New World, to Latin America. And most spurges like brain cactus or poinsettia that you saw on the other side, or pencil cactus, they have a white latex when you break the stems. Cacti never have that. This is a mango tree.
This is a mango. This looks a little bit like our pecan tree leaf.
Oh yeah, I can see
Bigger
that similarity too.
But it's...
Yeah, we don't have any pecans in Hawaii, unfortunately. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Wait a minute.
You got it.
It's
Wait
a
minute.
pecan.
While we've got it, yeah, you're saying it the southern way, pecan.
Got it.
In the northeast, it's pecan. And there's some people that say pecan. For
It's
few
a
people, but it's a
pecan.
pecan. I point out to people from the northeast, I don't think you have a lot of pecan trees, so you don't get to call them
What you want.
pecans.
Pecans.
You know, they're southern.
Yeah.
You know.
We get to name them.
Okay.
Is that
but
right?
you do have the macadamia nut.
Yep.
Is it a nut?
Yeah. That one's actually a nut.
How about the cashew?
No.
It's a seed, isn't
I
it?
hate to break it to you, that one's not a nut.
What is it?
And
Is it?
it's terribly poisonous too. Well, all nuts are seeds also, just not all seeds are nuts.
All nuts are seeds,
Yeah.
but not all seeds are nuts.
Yeah.
Okay, why is the cashew poisonous, and why do I eat them so much? And what's happening to me that I'm eating cashew?
You're eating them after they've been detoxified, so you're okay. I eat them every day too. But
He's a botanist, see, so I can continue with my cashew habit. Okay.
they're in the same family as poison ivy, which you have a lot of insects with, right?
Absolutely.
And I didn't know this before I became a botanist in my early days of foraging, because we don't have cashews growing in Silicon Valley either. But I would do what I called freezer diving in the Mexican grocery stores in the Mission in San Francisco. And I found cashew fruits, or apples, which is this delicious mango-like fruit, because they're also in the mango family, that grows above the cashew, and it's kind of pear-shaped, and you can eat it. It's very refreshing, if not a little bit astringent, like an unripe persimmon. And then after I enjoyed the fruit, I saw that little nut. It hangs down below the fruit. So I was like, oh, I should try that too. I ate it, and my lips started blistering. A few minutes later, I was like, oh my God, I must have some kind of allergy to this thing. And this was very, very early days of internet, like 95 or so. So I couldn't look it up very easily, but the next day I looked it up in the library and I was like, oh, I basically just ate poison ivy. I told you I can't have more than 5-foot trees here in the yard. So I'm trying to graft 5-foot tall dwarf mango with all the types of mangoes that I like on it. So this is in a 25-gallon pot. This is a special variety called Pickering that can give you fruit when it's only like 5 feet tall. It doesn't have the best fruit, so I'm grafting on some of my favorite varieties like Piri mango onto here. So eventually, a normal Piri tree, if you grafted it onto a regular mango like those over there, would grow to be huge, like 20, 30 feet high, which I definitely can't do here. But by grafting it onto this dwarf rootstock, it will in turn dwarf the Piri. So then I can have a 5-foot tall Piri with both the benefits of being small and having my favorite type of mango. And if it gets more branches, I'll try to add more mango grafts to this, because I suffer from, well, you guys on the mainland have seasonal affective disorder, right? In the dark in the winter when you have no sunlight, you
Yes.
get kind of depressed.
Yes.
Or SAD. Here in Hawaii, we don't have that because we have sun most of the year, but we get instead what I call MAD, or at least I do, mango absence disorder in the winter.
He gets mad.
Yeah. I get very mad when there's no mangoes around. It's one of my top 5 favorite fruits out of the 410 species of fruits that I've tried in my life. So I want there to be fresh mangoes as much of the year as possible. So on some trees, I've grafted 25 varieties of mangoes to really spread out the season. Because another issue with fruit trees, if you do them really well and fertilize them, a good mango tree can give you like a couple hundred mangoes in 1 month when it comes ripe. And you cannot, even I who love mangoes, even if I'm freezing them all or dehydrating them, I can't consume a couple hundred mangoes myself, including all the ones I forage. So by grafting on different varieties, like a spring one and an early summer and a midsummer, late summer and late fall one, you can get only, like 20, 30, 50 mangoes each month. And then
You can handle that.
Yeah, it's more manageable. Exactly.
You realize what he just did. He told us that a mango is not a mango is a mango.
Right.
It's not that way, but there are how many varieties of mango?
Several hundred. There's one guy in
Several
India
hundred?
who's grafted 300 varieties onto one tree. So that's my life goal.
Go back for a second. We were talking about the poisonous plants. Is there a trick if I find myself on a desert island and there's nobody around and I'm trying to figure out what I can eat and what I can't? Is there any kind of trick to knowing what's poisonous?
Unfortunately,
I have to get a degree like you have.
No. I mean, people have been doing this for tens of thousands of years and figuring it out.
And dying?
Yeah. and the better question you should ask is, what plants can I eat more than once? Because everything you can eat once, right?
True.
So let me ask you, what plants can I eat more than once?
How long do you have? And
There are
what
a lot of
island do
them,
you
really?
think you're going to wind up on? Yeah, there's thousands.
Because it varies.
Thousands of edible plants in the world.
Okay, so you mentioned your top 5 favorite fruits.
You want the other ones?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mangoes, definitely. Have you heard of jackfruit?
Yeah.
Yes.
The world's largest tree-borne fruit can get to be like 100 pounds or so. Durian are up there. You know that, the world's most smelly fruit.
What is it?
Durian is this big brown spiky thing. They say
That's what that is.
it smells like a French custard run through the sewers of Paris.
Ew.
Or just the sewers of Paris would do.
Or tastes like heaven and smells like hell is the
Yep.
other expression about it.
And that's one of your favorite.
It's very polarizing. Yeah, I lived in Thailand on a durian farm, so I had it for breakfast every day, and I got very used to it.
Did you have to stay away from other people because of the smell? Or
I once got kicked off a subway for trying to bring a durian on.
No.
If you go to Southeast Asia, there's signs everywhere, like on airplanes and the subway, that say there's a big drawing of a durian with an X across it. And I know why, because I was once on a flight in Indonesia where someone somehow snuck a durian on. It was a torturous, like, hour flight.
It's really that stinky.
Yeah.
Even to you who loves it.
Yeah. You never, like, don't smell it. You just know that there's a good taste at the end of that. So if you can get it past your nose. When we used to open it at the New York Botanical Garden where I did my PhD, the security would come and say, we have to evacuate, there's a gas leak. And we're like, no, it's this fruit. Like, I don't believe you. Like, no, really, smell this fruit.
Put your nose in
It's
it.
coming from this.
At what point is it that you made this turn from the concrete jungle to the real jungle?
I blame my grandma in Germany. She had an amazingly beautiful garden, and every summer when we went to visit her, I would just spend all my time in the garden, like climbing the plum and cherry trees and gorging myself on fruit. And then my mom would call me in for dinner and like, I don't think I can eat anything because I'm so
I already ate out there.
thankful from all the fruit. So she had so many fruit trees, raspberries and stuff we don't really have in the US, like gooseberries and currants and strawberries and green gage plums. So I think that kind of got me into it. And my mom, when she didn't live in Manhattan, is a pretty avid gardener. And still to this day, I call her the orchid whisperer, because
She can do that.
yeah, even in the middle of Manhattan in the winter, I'll go home and visit her, and she'll have like a whole room full of blooming orchids.
That's a special talent.
Yeah,
isn't it?
exactly. And I try to give her all this, like, oh, you know, we studied the orchid family in my last class, and it needs these particular nutrients. Like, I've never done that. They do fine. So
She doesn't want to hear all of your PhD
yeah,
stuff.
exactly. So maybe I got some of that from my grandma and my mom, and it just kind of was laying latent in my mind until I got sick of Silicon Valley and wanted to do something for the world and help find medicinal plants that benefit people instead of writing a computer program that maybe 5 people will use, and it'll probably make their lives harder rather than easier because it'll be so confusing.
Is that what you had studied? The
Virtual
computer
reality?
stuff?
Yeah. I did engineering for undergrad, and I worked in Silicon Valley for about 7 years doing research on that, kind of making like the precursor to Google Earth.
Yes.
Nat, I don't picture you doing that.
Yeah,
You seem
I can't
like a
either.
fish out of water.
I've been trying to do some programming recently, getting back into it to help people, to make an app to help people find medicinal plants in their neighborhood. And I'm a little wary of it because it's changed so much in the last 20 years since I last programmed. And like you say, I don't want to be stuck behind a computer inside all day. Like being out here, even if it's hot and sweaty, it's much more enjoyable. I had really bad eczema living in San Francisco, where it's a little bit drier, parts of the year at least. And Western doctors would just give me steroids that I knew would make it worse in the long run. And then before I took that 5-month sabbatical to go to Asia, I went to a acupuncturist, and they did a few acupuncture treatments on me and gave me this one balm that did wonders. It improved it so much better than any of the steroids, and probably was a lot better for me. So at least in terms of like chronic conditions, I realized that traditional medicine had a leg up on Western medicine. Well, that was what I studied for my PhD. I came out to Hawaii 16 years ago to do a postdoc, and I was studying more food plants between Southeast Asia and here, and how they're moved around to different parts of the world. So that was more on food, and then I got into growing fruit. But more recently, I've come back to the plant medicines a lot, and I make a lot of tinctures at home. And I have, are you guys getting bit by any mosquitoes?
Not right
so
now,
far,
but
no.
Not yet.
but in Texas, absolutely.
So I just recently released this mosquito repellent made from the flowers of breadfruit. And this has been a traditional use of just drying the breadfruit flowers and burning them like a mosquito punk. But recently they studied it in the lab and found it to be more effective than DEET at repelling mosquitoes. I have one for helping you sleep, one for allergies. I got a really bad knee injury from extreme gardening in April, and I put comfrey from this that's growing over here in the garden on it, and I was walking again in only a month or two after breaking a femur.
Do you just, you go out and just have a steak and a baked potato ever, or is everything built around what you know about plants and what you're not about to touch and what you love?
Definitely don't have that. My diet is a pesca non-crustacean pastry insect vegan, but I'm sure you meet one of those every week in your
Oh,
area.
yeah.
Sure, all the time. Yes. Paul
So,
McCartney.
yeah, he is one of those.
Yeah.
When I lived in Thailand, I had to get used to not only eating and enjoying insects, but I also got trained on how to hunt for crickets. And one of the Thai grannies blew me away. She was so fast at night in the field picking up
He
crickets.
eats crickets, Kelly.
I've had a cricket.
Yeah,
You've eaten a cricket?
they're pretty good.
Yeah. Well, if you put enough Cajun seasoning
Yeah,
on them,
exactly.
they're really good.
Hey, if you put enough sugar on a hammer, you can eat that too.
Come on, Bob. Bugs are the future of protein. They're so sustainable and easy to harvest. And I'm trying to there's a new really bad pest for coconuts here called the coconut rhinoceros beetle. So we might be facing a coconut-less future in Hawaii, which is really hard to imagine.
Oh.
What do we do?
Yeah, that's why people are fighting it tooth and nail. It just showed up in full force like a year or two ago. So we're still trying to figure out what to do with it, but I'm trying to mount a campaign with a few friends who are coconut tree trimmers of eating the bugs out of existence. So the larvae or grubs are like thumb size, so they're pretty meaty looking. But first thing we have to do is rebrand them as land shrimp, because people have the same reaction that you had of like, ooh,
Right.
this is gross, even though,
Land shrimp.
people around the world eat bugs all the time,
yeah.
Sure.
and they're not inherently more nasty than eating other animals. And we eat shrimp, which are kind of in the same larger family or order, and we don't get squeamish about that. So I want to rebrand the grubs, the coconut rhinoceros beetle, as land shrimp, and rebrand the ones in the ocean as marine CRB.
You're telling me that,
Flip the script.
we can't get past our own minds
Yeah.
in what we eat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I buy that. We understand that you're into the chocolate business. Tell us how that came about and why here.
All about peer pressure. My friends made me do it.
Friends.
Like, you should make chocolate. Everyone's doing it. You should try it. No, I was working, as I told you, on my PhD on medicinal plants, and I had a classmate who was a Mayan archaeologist working in like Honduras and Guatemala and other parts of Central America, and she was editing a book on all the uses of cacao in Latin America, and she had no one to write about South America, and she knew I had worked in Peru. She's like, can you write the chapter about, South America from your experiences down there? I was like, well, I love chocolate, but I just eat it. I don't know anything about it scientifically. But she pestered me for almost 3 years, and finally I relented with the help of my advisor, Doug Daly, who works in Brazil too. And he was like, yeah, we'll write it. So I relented, got into that, and then when that book came out called Chocolate in Mesoamerica, that was 2006, and some other friends in San Francisco said, yeah, I don't really want to read your thick academic book. We know you like to cook. Why don't you just make us some chocolate? Didn't you learn how to make chocolate when you were researching this whole book? Like, yeah, I should try making it. So I just got some cacao nibs at the local health food store, ground them up in a coffee grinder, kind of emulating an easier way than the grind on the metate.
Yeah.
So that's like simulating that, but much easier. It doesn't take as much must get, but everyone loved it and they're like, make more, make more. So I started to meet all the few cacao farmers here in Hawaii at the time. There weren't many. And I was like, screw New York, like you can't grow cacao there. And Hawaii is the only state where you can grow cacao in the US, so I should be making it here. So I disbanded the chocolate company in New York and started Madre Chocolate here. And we're the first bean-to-bar chocolate maker on this island, at least. All you gotta do to turn it into a fresh cacao pod into chocolate is harvest it off the tree, cut it open, shuck all the beans out, put it in a fermenting bin, ferment it 5 to 10 days, stirring it every day. Then it comes out more like a dried bean without the fruit on it, which is really delicious, and you should definitely try it while you're here. And then it gets dried for another week, aged for 6 weeks, then finally roasted, cracked, winnowed to take the shell off, ground in a stone grinder to simulate those Mexican metates. Then if none of that sounded hard, then you got to temper it to give it a shine, which you can't do if it's any more than 50% humidity. And then pour it into molds, vibrate it, put it in the fridge, and take it out like an hour later and wrap it. And then you have a simple chocolate bar.
Oh, that's all there is to it.
That's
Wow.
it. Simple, right?
Yeah, we can whip that up when we get back to our hotel. Tell us about what you're trying to do with this part of the planet similar to Napa Valley.
Oh, the Napa Valley of chocolate. Yeah, that was I and a few other chocolate makers' vision for enjoying the terroir of cacao. So terroir, you might have heard it used with wine. It's just a fancy French word for land or terrain. Mm-hmm. It's very similar to terrain. And it's the idea that if you grow a crop in different places, even if you make the food the same way out of it, it will taste completely different. So in wine, they say like, Pinot Noir, grape grown in France versus Oregon versus California versus Texas, if you can even grow it there, will make totally different tasting wine, even if it's fermented the exact same way and aged. Just because the wind and the rain and the soil and all those factors that the plants that grow nearby your crop. And the same is very, very true of cacao, probably even more so in the ferment. So I call it micro terroir in the case of chocolate, because the microbes that are responsible for the fermentation really determine the flavor of the chocolate more than anything else. And it is, you don't really hear about it. I call it chocolate's dirty little secret, because it's done on the farm or nearby in a co-op in the tropics, and then it gets shipped to the temperate areas to be made into chocolate, and never the twain shall meet until recently. So Hawaii is really great place in the history of chocolate, because it was one of the first places in the world we had cacao farmers and chocolate makers like us next to each other, with research universities like Skip Mittenbender at University of Hawaii, all trying to improve the chocolate really quickly. To borrow a phrase from my old life as an engineer, we can close the design loop, so we can give the chocolate back to the farmer within a month of getting the cacao from them. And we can say, oh, what did you do on that last ferment? That was amazing. Like, keep doing that. Don't change anything. Or like, why don't you try tweaking the temperature a little bit, heat it up a tad, or add a little more vinegar mother, and maybe it'll change the taste in the direction we want it. So when I first got here, I didn't think I could sell chocolate made from the cacao grown in Hawaii, but I didn't give up on it, because I knew it's just we didn't have experience with it here. But by closing that design loop and working with the farmers really assiduously, we were able to win an International Chocolate Award the year after from chocolate made from cacao grown on the Big Island.
So you're on your way to creating this dream of the Napa Valley of chocolate.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, every farm here will have a different tasting cacao, and that was the first of our 28 awards. So we're now the most awarded chocolate company in Hawaii. I want the farmers to get more credit for it than they have been. So I started I helped run the Big Island Chocolate Festival, and they were giving out awards for chocolate. I was like, hey, we need a cacao award. I'll help you judge it, but we should ask for submissions from the farmers for cacao and say, oh, this is amazing tasting cacao, and everyone should buy cacao from them, so it can really support the farmers who are doing that great job. And there's also recently gained more prominence this International Cocoa of Excellence Award, which happens every 2 years in Paris, and Hawaii has now won 4 or 5 of those awards, including several of the farmers that I work with. So
You've had a lot of success with this.
yeah, I think of it as chocolate is like a sneak attack of ethnobotany. I call it applied ethnobotany. If I want to introduce someone to a new plant they've never heard of and they might normally be afraid of it, if it wasn't, in a familiar chocolate bar form, people would probably be scared of it. But by wrapping it in chocolate, we can sort of get people to explore these plants they've never heard of before. And I also have a lot of bars that I tout the medicinal benefits of. So like our passion fruit, or as it's called, lilikoi. That's one of our most popular bars. And it actually has a lot of medicinal benefits. So in Latin America, where lilikoi is originally from, parents use it to help their kids fall asleep because it has a natural anti-anxiety compound in it. So that sleep tincture that I told you I sell on the site too has lilikoi leaf tincture in it too, so it helps you chill out. Even as an adult, if you have trouble falling asleep because your mind is spinning thinking about everything you have to do, the lilikoi will help you really chill out. So I say use this bar when you want to go to sleep, and we have another bar with like 9 shots of espresso in it for when you want to wake up.
He is speaking my language.
Yeah, I want to point out something.
Medicinal chocolate.
Yeah, I want to point out that
Secretly medicinal.
To you, the chocoholic.
Hey, that's a dirty word here. Don't use that word.
Exactly.
There is a 12-step program he's been explaining to us about the fermentation and all of that of the cacao plant. So there's a reason that these things are connected, right?
You should call your wife a chocophile. It's a good thing for her. It's healthy.
Yeah, see, it's a good thing
It's
for
very
me.
healthy.
Anytime I want chocolate now, you have to
She needed
concede.
you, Nat, to justify this
it.
thing of hers.
Hey, I am 93, and hopefully I don't look a day over 70 from all the chocolate
Not a
I
bit.
eat,
Yeah,
right?
you're
So it'll
incredible.
benefit. If you want her to live long and prosper, give her more chocolate.
My hero.
I kind of like being called a chocophile as opposed to a chocoholic. It's got a nice little ring to it. A chocophile. Makes me sound important, right? Now, if you want more information about Nat's chocolate, you can simply visit his website. It's madrechocolate.com. And if you're ever in Oahu, be sure and look Nat up. You would love to go on one of his foraging tours. It's called Natty by Nature. Of course, you can find all this stuff on our social media, Facebook, Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We put lots of stuff on there that's behind the scenes that you don't see anywhere else. You just go on there and subscribe, and that way you don't miss anything. Don't forget you can listen to On the Road with Kelly and Bob wherever you get your podcast, or the best thing to do, download that free Odyssey app. Listen anytime, anywhere.